On my 5-year work anniversary, my boss said that the best gift for the company would be if I resigned immediately. So I smiled and handed in my notice. 3 days later, the CEO fired my boss. Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where loyalty dies, lies bleed out, and the truth hits like a slap to the face. These aren't just stories. They're confessions soaked in betrayal and regret. Ever spotted a red flag when it was already too late? Say it in the comments. Let's tear into today's tale. The best anniversary gift you could give this company is your resignation. Effective immediately. The words hit me like a thunderclap on a clear day. Pisa Carey, my boss of 5 years, slid the blank resignation form across the glossy conference table with manicured fingernails, her smile never wavering. My heart hammered against my ribs as 20 pairs of eyes, my colleagues stared at, their laps, their coffee cups, anywhere but at me. 5 years at West Ridge Analytics. 5 years of early mornings and midnight oil. 5 years of canceled plans and postponed dreams. And this was my reward. A public execution disguised as an anniversary celebration. The room spun as I stared at the paper. The silver Happy Work Anniversary banner hanging above the conference room door now seemed like a cruel joke. The untouched cake with my name misspelled in blue frosting sat in the center of the table. 5 unlit candles mocking my tenure. I don't understand. I managed. My voice smaller than I wanted it to be. Pisa's smile widened, showing perfectly aligned teeth. Your performance hasn't met our expectations for quite some time, Celia. We've been patient, but patience has limits. Lies. Pure lies. Just last quarter, my client retention strategy had saved the company millions. But as I opened my mouth to defend myself, Trisha raised her hand. This isn't a negotiation. It's a courtesy. Sign now, and we'll provide a neutral reference. Make this difficult. She let the threat hang unfinished. I took the pen, my fingers trembling with rage, rather than fear. As I signed my name, Celia Lear, a plan began forming in my mind. A plan that would make Price regret this moment for the rest of her career. What happened next would change everything. But sometimes revenge is a dish best prepared in plain sight. Before I tell you how I dismantled my boss's career brick by methodical brick, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? Someone who smiled while sliding a knife between your ribs? If you have, you'll understand what drove me. And if you haven't, consider yourself lucky. But stick around anyway. You might learn something useful for when your turn comes. And if you're enjoying this story so far, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, the satisfaction of what's coming is worth the wait. My name is Celia Levier, and until that humiliating afternoon, I was the senior data analyst at West Ridge Analytics. I'm 32, unmarried, with a degree in business intelligence that I earned while working 2 jobs. I'm the woman who arrives first and leaves last. The one who remembers everyone's birthdays and brings homemade cookies to morning meetings. The reliable one. The steady one. The one who never says no to an extra assignment. Maybe that was the problem. My story with West Ridge began 5 years earlier when I was hired as a junior analyst. From day one, I treated the company like it was my own. When our servers crashed during a major client presentation, I stayed up 48 hours straight to recover the data. When budgets were cut, I found ways to do more with less. I believed in the work we were doing, transforming raw data into actionable insights that helped businesses thrive. For the first 3 years, Price was my mentor. She took credit for my ideas, sure, but I didn't mind. That's how the game worked. I thought, pay your dues, prove your worth, climb the ladder. Trisha had hired me when other companies wouldn't look twice at my unconventional resume. I owed her until I didn't. The shift happened gradually. Then suddenly, like walking into quicksand, first came the exclusion from meetings I'd previously attended. Then, assignments that once fell to me were redistributed. My emails went unanswered for days. My suggestions in meetings were ignored only to be praised when repeated by someone else. Minutes later, "You're being paranoid," my colleague Evan told me when I confided in him. "Price thinks you're brilliant. Everyone does." But I wasn't paranoid. Something had changed, and I couldn't figure out what. Then came the Knox project. Our biggest potential client, Knox Industries, needed a complete overhaul of their data management systems. The contract would be worth millions, enough to put West Ridge on the map nationally. Our team was tasked with creating the proposal. I spent weeks researching, analyzing, crafting the perfect pitch. I created a customized dashboard that would give Knox real-time insights into their supply chain, something no competitor was offering. The night before the presentation, I emailed the final materials to Price,
copying the team.
"Outstanding work," she replied. "This could be the one that changes everything." She wasn't wrong. The morning of the presentation, I arrived early to set up, only to find the conference room already prepared. Price was there reviewing slides I didn't recognize. "What happened to the materials I sent?" I asked. She barely glanced up. I made some adjustments. Nothing major, but they were major.
My
name had been removed from the proposal. My custom dashboard was there but attributed to the leadership team.
My
weeks of research presented as collective effort. "Don't look so wounded, Celia," Price said, noticing my expression. "This is how business works. No one wants to know they're dealing with decision makers."
I swallowed my
objections and sat through the presentation, watching Price take sole credit for my work.
Knox signed the
contract that afternoon. Our biggest win ever. Price was promoted to vice president the following week. I received a gift card to a coffee shop. That should have been my warning sign. Instead, I doubled down, working harder, staying later, determined to prove my value. I maintained detailed records of my contributions, not out of suspicion, but because I was proud of my work. Each project folder contained every email, every draft, every piece of feedback, a digital breadcrumb trail of my professional life. Little did I know how valuable those records would become. 6 months before my 5th anniversary, West Ridge landed another potential gauche. Tech, a rising star in the industry. They needed a complete analytics solution, and they needed it fast.
The
CEO assigned the project to Trisha's department. "Celia, you'll take point," Price announced in the team meeting. "Your experience with Knox makes you perfect for this." I was elated finally. Recognition, the chance to lead a major project from start to finish. I threw myself into it completely, canceling a long-planned vacation, working through weekends. I developed an innovative, predictive model that could save ERA millions in preventable losses. The presentation was scheduled for Monday. On Friday afternoon, Price called me into her office. "We need to talk about ERA," she said, her voice oddly flat.
I
"Just finished the final projections," I said, excited to share the results.
The
savings potential is even higher than we estimated. There's been a change of plan. Leo will be leading the presentation. Leo, her nephew, who joined the company 3 months earlier with no relevant experience.
But why?
I stammered. All's executives are traditional. They respond better to male presenters.
She wouldn't meet my eyes.
It's nothing personal. Nothing personal. Just the theft of weeks of my
life.
Just another eraser. Leo doesn't understand the model. I protested.
He
wasn't involved in developing it. He'll manage. I've added my name as co-creator, so I'll be there to answer any technical questions. I sat there speechless with rage and disbelief.
Is
there a problem? She asked, finally looking at me. Yes, there was a problem. A massive problem.
But I
smiled and said, no problem at all. That weekend, I did something I'd never done before. I made copies of everything related to the ERA project. Every email, every draft, every late-night revelation. I documented my hours, my Insights: the evolution of the predictive model from concept to completion. I compiled it all into a detailed report, a record of truth. Not for revenge. Not yet, just as insurance. Monday came. I watched from the back of the room as Leo fumbled through my presentation, mispronouncing terms I'd created, misrepresenting data I'd meticulously analyzed. Price jumped in, repeatedly to correct him, claiming shared credit with every intervention. All signed the contract anyway. Leo received a promotion. I received nothing. 1 month later, I was called into a performance review meeting. Unscheduled, unexpected. Your work has been slipping, Celia, Price said, sliding a document across the table. This is a formal warning.
I
Stared at the paper in disbelief. The complaints were vague: lack of initiative, communication issues, failure to meet expectations. Nothing specific, nothing actionable. If you want to discuss specific examples, I began. This isn't a discussion, she interrupted. Sign the warning. I signed. What choice did I have? After that, the targets on my back multiplied. Impossible deadlines, contradictory instructions, projects reassigned. Without notice, meetings rescheduled without telling me. Each misstep, engineered or genuine, documented in my personnel file.
Still, I persisted. I
Kept my head down and did the work. I continued building my shadow archive of contributions, saving emails, documenting conversations, not out of paranoia, but because something told me I would need proof someday. Then came my work anniversary, the day everything changed. After signing the resignation form in that conference room full of silent colleagues, I walked out with my head high. No tears, no pleas, just quiet dignity as I collected my personal items under Trisha's watchful eye. Security will escort you out, she said, as if I might steal something after 5 years of loyalty. As the guard walked me to the exit, my phone buzzed with a text from Evan. This isn't right. What can I do? What could anyone do? West Ridge was Pisa's kingdom now. She had the CEO's ear, the board's confidence, and a talent for rewriting history with herself as the hero. But I had something she didn't know about. Something powerful. The truth. Documented, dated, undeniable. In the parking lot I sat in my car and finally let the tears come. 5 years gone. My reputation in tatters, my future uncertain. For 10 minutes, I allowed myself to feel everything. The hurt, the rage, the humiliation. Then I dried my eyes, started the engine, and began to plan. Not a tantrum, not a lawsuit, something more elegant, more complete. I drove to the office of West's biggest competitor. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I reveal what happened in that meeting, you need to understand just how thoroughly Price had underestimated me. You see, while she was busy taking credit for my work, I was quietly becoming indispensable to our clients. They didn't care about titles or organizational charts. They cared about results, and I was the one who delivered them. Knox Industries, Tech, Pinnacle Systems. I knew their data inside and out. I had built relationships with their analysts, their IT departments, their decision makers. I had solved problems Price didn't even know existed, and I had documented everything. That night, after being forced to resign, I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by files, digital and physical. 5 years of work, 5 years of stolen credit, 5 years of building solutions that had made West Ridge millions. My fingers hovered over my laptop keyboard. One email could expose everything. One post could burn it all down. The temptation was overwhelming. But revenge born of anger leaves evidence. It betrays itself. And I wasn't angry anymore. I was something much more dangerous. I was methodical. What happened next would either restore my career or end it forever. As I typed the first words of an email that would change everything, I realized there was no turning back. The question wasn't whether Price would pay for what she'd done. The question was whether I could Make her downfall look like justice rather than revenge. And as my plan took shape in the quiet hours of that night, I knew the answer was yes. Because the most devastating weapon against a liar isn't anger, it's truth. The morning after my forced resignation, I woke with purpose rather than despair. While Price probably expected me to be hiding under my covers, I was at my laptop by 6 a.m., coffee in hand, mapping out my next moves with surgical precision. First, I requested my exit interview with Human Resources standard procedure that even Trisha couldn't block. Tessa, the HR director who'd been with the company since its founding, seemed genuinely confused by my departure. "Your performance metrics are consistently exceptional," she said, reviewing my file. "There's nothing here that suggests termination was warranted." I maintained a neutral expression. I wasn't terminated. I resigned. At Trisha's suggestion, Tessa's eyebrow arched slightly. I simply smiled. "I believe it's best for all parties if I move on." Tessa studied me for a moment. "Celia, off the record, is there something I should know?" The invitation to vent, to accuse, to expose Trisha dangled before me like ripe fruit, but premature. Accusations would only paint me as a disgruntled ex-employee. Instead, I took a different approach. "Actually, there's something," I said. "I'd like to request a brief meeting with Emmett Damon, Westridge's founder and CEO, a man I'd seen exactly twice in 5 years, both times from across a crowded room." Tessa blinked in surprise. "The CEO? That's unusual for an exit interview." "I've dedicated 5 years to his company," I replied calmly. "I'd simply like to thank him personally before I go." "I'll see what I can do," Tessa said, making a note. "Though I can't promise anything." I thanked her and left, knowing that my unusual request would spark curiosity. In a company culture built on hierarchy and protocol, asking to see the CEO was like a village peasant requesting an audience with the king. It would raise questions exactly as I intended. Back home, I began the real work. I spent hours organizing my documentation into a comprehensive transition report. Not a revenge dossier that would be too obvious, but a detailed accounting of every project I'd touched in 5 years. Each entry included the project scope, key milestones, challenges overcome, and results achieved. I included all communications, giving proper credit to everyone involved, including Trisha when appropriate. Most importantly, I created a section called Knowledge Transfer Priorities that highlighted the clients and projects most likely to suffer from my departure. For each, I included contact information, outstanding issues, and recommended actions. Nothing accusatory, just practical information any responsible departing employee would provide. The completed document ran to 126 pages. At 9:17 the next morning, my phone rang with an unknown number. "Miss Levier, this is Emmett Damon's office. The CEO has agreed to meet with you tomorrow at 11 a.m. for 15 minutes. My heart skipped. "Please thank him. I'll be there." That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from nervousness, but from anticipation. I rehearsed what I would say, how I would say it. The key was to appear grateful, not bitter. Professional, not vengeful. To plant seeds rather than make accusations. When I arrived at West Ridge the following day, the security guard who had escorted me out just days before looked startled. "I have an appointment with Mr. Damon," I explained, showing the email confirmation. His eyebrows shot up. "Yes, ma'am. Top floor, end of the hall." The elevator ride gave me time to steady my breathing. I was dressed not for a job interview, but for a business meeting, confident, but not aggressive. I carried a leather portfolio containing a printed copy of my transition report. Its digital version already sent to EMTT's executive assistant. His office was exactly what you'd expect from a tech CEO who'd built his company from nothing, spacious, but not ostentatious, with clean lines and large windows overlooking the city. The man himself rose from behind his desk as I entered. shorter than I expected, with kind eyes that had probably seen every trick in the business playbook. "Miss Lear," he said, extending his hand. "I understand you're leaving us after 5 years."
Yes,
"Sir, thank you for making time to see me." He gestured to a chair. "I make time for employees who've contributed significantly to our growth. Your name has appeared in several success stories that have crossed my desk, particularly Knox and Parallax." I kept my expression neutral despite the surge of validation. I was fortunate to be part of those projects. "So why leave?" Tessa mentioned. "Your resignation was unexpected. Here is my opening." But instead of launching into accusations, I placed my portfolio
on his desk.
"Before I answer that, I'd like to give you this. It's a comprehensive transition report covering all my projects. I believe in leaving things better than I found them." Emmett looked surprised as he flipped through the document. "This is unusually thorough. I care deeply about West Ridge's success, even as I move on." He studied me for a moment. "You didn't answer my question. Why leave?" I met his gaze steadily. It seemed the appropriate time for a change. "By the way, I've received several offers from competitors, but I've declined them all. I respect this company too much to take our strategies elsewhere." That caught his attention. He leaned forward slightly. "Which competitors?" I named 3. All firms that had indeed approached me over the years. EMTT's expression shifted subtly. "You said you were part of the Knox and Aller projects," he noted. "My understanding is that you were instrumental in both." "Every success at West Ridge has been a team effort," I replied diplomatically. "Of course," he paused, studying me. "Tell me about the predictive model for ERA." Price presented it as a breakthrough. "It certainly represented a new approach," I agreed. "And your contribution to it?"
I
hesitated just long enough to appear modest rather than boastful. "I developed the initial concept and built the working prototype." EMTT's eyebrows rose slightly. "Price presented it as her innovation." I smiled carefully. "Perhaps I misunderstood the question. I meant my contribution to the concept." His expression changed subtly. He asked more specific questions about the model's development, technical details that only its creator would know intimately.
Each
answer I provided revealed my deep knowledge of its creation. The meeting extended well beyond the scheduled 15 minutes. "Your transition report," he said, eventually tapping the document. "You've included attribution for all team members on each project. Proper credit is important in collaborative environments," I replied. "Indeed it is." He studied me with new interest.
"One
last question, Miss Levier. If you were to stay at West Ridge, what position would you feel qualified to hold?" The question caught me off guard. That's no longer relevant, sir. Humor me."
I
considered carefully. Based on my experience and results, I believe I could effectively lead the analytics division. Pisa's position. Emmett nodded slowly. "Thank you for your time and for this detailed report. I wish you success in your future endeavors." As I left his office, I had no idea if my seeds had found fertile ground or if I just wasted my one shot at justice. The uncertainty was excruciating. 2 days later, while clearing out my apartment for a planned move to another city, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Miss Airedale, this is Emmett. Damon, are you available to come to the office tomorrow morning?" My heart stuttered. "Yes, of course. 9 o'clock, my office." He hung up without explanation. That night was longer than the one before my resignation. What did he want? Had Pisa somehow twisted things against me? Had I miscalculated? The next morning, I arrived at West Ridge. At 8:45, pulse racing. The security guard nodded with unexpected respect as I signed in. "They're expecting you upstairs," he said.
When I
reached EMTT's office, his assistant immediately ushered me in. Inside, Emmett stood beside a woman I recognized as Gwen Isla, West Ridge's chief financial officer. My mouth went dry. "Thank you," For coming, Celia, Emmett said, using my first name for the first time. Please sit down. I took the offered chair, keeping my expression carefully neutral. We've been reviewing your transition report, he continued.
The
CFO noticed some discrepancies between project attributions and financial allocations. Gwen nodded. The Knox implementation budget shows resources allocated to a team of 8 led by Tricia. Your report indicates the core development was completed by you and 2 junior analysts. Those were the facts as I understood them, I said carefully.
Emmett
Slid a document across the desk. A revised organizational chart. My eyes widened as I scanned it. Price's name was missing entirely. My name appeared in a new position. Director of Analytics. Your boss has been terminated. Emmett stated plainly. We found she's been claiming credit for others' work while miscalculating resources. The board was particularly disturbed by how the ERA predictive model was handled. He extended his hand. We'd like to offer you a proper anniversary gift, the position you've actually earned. I stared at the chart, then at him, struggling to process what was happening. You seem surprised, Gwen observed. I admitted. I didn't expect this outcome. What did you expect? Emmett asked. The truth tumbled out before I could stop it. The sweetest victory isn't destroying your opponent. It's succeeding where they said you couldn't. Have you ever faced a similar situation? What would you have done in my place? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real stories about overcoming workplace challenges. Remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply living well and letting the truth have its day.